in relationships, we need commitment. That's not it. Black one. Can everybody see that?
There you go. These old lines.
Commitment. Commitment. In order to have a quality relationship, commitment. You know people who have disrupted their relationships. You know children that have run away from home in the sense they don't want to live with their parents. And you're thinking, man, you left home because you just didn't want to pick up your toys. Okay, and you're thinking, wow. Okay, you know brothers and sisters who do not get along, and you're thinking, that's all they need. You know people who got a divorce, and you're thinking, that's all was wrong. Commitment is so critical. Commitment. So whatever relationship you're developing, you need to be committed to the idea of the relationship. Here's the mistake we make. We become committed to the person. Mistake. We need to be committed to the idea of the relationship. Here's how it works. I have a brother that's 6 years older than I am, and for a period of time, he became very, very negligent. In fact, when our father died, he did not make the funeral. And he became very negligent, and sometimes we would go a year and not hear from him. So one day I said to myself, now if one of my parents dies, and he's not here, if one of my parents gets sick and they're in the hospital and they have to suffer and die without him here, I'm not going to have anything else to do with it. That was my thinking. And then I decided to change that. So then it dawned on me, my parents wanted us to have a good relationship. So then I decided it would be terrible if that happened, but I am not going to destroy our relationship. So our relationship continued on the basis of commitment. We went into a business together, and he didn't keep his end of the bargain. I have a car note every month now because he didn't keep his end of the bargain. But we don't fall out. So I am committed, no matter what happens, I'm going to maintain a brotherly, social relationship with him. I don't care what he does. Now, there are people, I do have to admit, at first as I thought about it, I thought I shouldn't, but then I decided our relationship, and I want my children to relate to his children, and I don't want them falling out. So it is simply commitment. Commitment. And I am glad to say he is doing far better now, much, much better. But I know people who have disrupted their relationship with their brother, their sister, and over small things. And so commitment. You need commitment. If you do not have commitment, you aren't going to make it. Commitment. Now, and then commitment to the idea of what the relationship is. I use that same relationship with my children. I decided that I will never allow anything to happen to where I will stop communicating with my children. So now that governs how I relate to him. My sons are sports guys. They are aggressive when they argue in sports. They argue politics, and I discovered that if I'm arguing with them about something, they are very passionate, I'm very passionate, and it dawned on me, I better quit that. Because we are beginning to develop an argumentative relationship, and I don't want that. So I don't discuss politics with them. I might ask a question, and whatever they say, I don't say anything else. I might make a comment and say, Kobe Bryant's washed up, and then one of my sons, he just hits the roof when you say that. But we don't. So I had to make a decision. I am more interested in us having a father-son relationship than I am winning the argument.
There you go.
I'm far more interested in that. I can win the argument. I mean, they're good, but they can't out-argue me. but the commitment, the relationship, so commitment. And the reason relationships deteriorate, people are not committed. Now, commitment says we have to find a way to make this work. If there is no commitment, we claim I can't find a way. So commitment, but commitment, the reason a commitment to the person is not sustaining. Now we think it is, and newlyweds think it is, but after about 20 years, you'll find out that because we change. We change size, we change personalities. There's just so many things in life changes. And we began to see what we have not seen before. Because we generally date on an artificial level. And we date in the, and so once we get married, then reality comes out. And there's several reasons for that. But if I am committed to the idea, for example, if you meet a person who is committed to working, then the job is not too difficult. But if they're not committed to working, the job is too difficult. If they're working at McDonald's, it's too hard. If they're working at Kroger, it's too hard. But people who are committed, that's why, and if you're ever in the Atlanta area, and this is probably true here in Anderson, every morning, you can ride down just about any street, and there will be a woman carrying a baby or two on her way to work. And in many cases, she left a guy at the house who wanted to go to work. And his claim is it's too hard. I took my children to get driver's license one time. We were standing there talking, and we overheard a conversation between a guy and a girl. The girl said, and apparently both of them were working at McDonald's at that time. The girl said, I need to make more money. I'm going to see if I can find me a construction job. The guy said, and I'm tired of this stuff, I'm going to start selling some stuff. And I said to myself, I said, you hear that? I said, now the woman committed to feeding her children, she's looking for a construction job so she can make more money. The guy is claiming that McDonald's is too hard, so he's going to quit working at McDonald's and sell drugs. See, that's about commitment. That's all that is. That's commitment. So commitment is so crucial. So if you're trying to develop a relationship with a person, whether it's a brother, sister, whether it's a co-worker, employer, employee, whether it is a dating relationship or husband, wife, you need to look for a commitment. Now, not how they are committed to me, but what level of commitment they have to the type of relationship we are fixing to develop. Because see, a commitment can be camouflaged in my interest in you. For example, I want something from you, I can be as nice as I need to be until I get what I want from you. So what you look at is what type of commitment. I didn't spell that right. I knew that didn't look right. C-O-M-M-I. And that's only one T. Find somebody correct on that.
I thought it was
He had it right.
C-O-M-M-I-T-M-E-N-T. One reason I never used the board on, I always have trouble writing and talking and spelling. I just can't do that very well. So I always misspell simple words. I mean, my handwriting is bad, so this is probably the best handwriting I've ever had. But people are committed because they're getting something out of it. So what you do is you look to see what kind of commitment do they make when they get absolutely nothing out of it. You know, who goes and helps grandmama if grandmama doesn't have any money? See, if they only go and help grandmama because grandmama's going to fill that tank up with gasoline, that doesn't show you anything about character. What do they do if grandmama says, I have no money today, but I need to go to the grocery store? I ain't got time. So that's crazy. So you're looking for commitment, all right? Any questions? Don't ask that next questions, okay? All right? Now, what commitment does, commitment keeps us together. Everybody got that? That's what commitment is. All right, now here's another word. Here's another word. Okay, it's communication. Communication keeps us connected together. See, you don't want to just be together. You really want to be connected. Connected. Communication. And at the end, I'm going to teach you a little communication technique that should help you. All right? Communication. Now, when you communicate, you have to communicate thoughts as well as feelings. It's your responsibility to make sure that whatever you are communicating, you communicate it clear enough for the person to understand. Now, everybody take a deep breath. Everybody take another deep breath. Women, this does not work. He ought to know. That doesn't work. That's not fair. That is not fair. Well, he ought to know by now. It's not fair. You don't even know. So you expect him to know. So it's your job. Listen, here's the attitude you got to adopt. If he sees what I see, he'll feel what I feel. He'll appreciate it the way I appreciate it. But if he doesn't see what you see, he can't. Now, sometimes people think the other person is just hard-hearted. They don't see what you see because you have not painted the picture clear enough for them to see it. And so you think they do, but you have not. Several years ago when I lived in Memphis, I knew a girl, a friend of mine named George. He was dating a girl, and that girl had a sister, and I believe her name was Ardell. Ardell was dating a guy, I forget what his name was. His name was, I'll just say his name was Robert. So Ardell and Robert broke up. Robert married another woman, let's say her name was Susan. So Robert used to date Ardell. Now Ardell married, let's say her husband was named Henry. I don't know what the guy's name was. So Susan was married to Robert. Robert is Ardell's ex-boyfriend. Susan's ex-husband, let's say name was Richard. Robert took Susan to work one night. As he was driving back into the apartment complex, Robert shot him and killed him. Robert worked at the phone company. I was working for the phone company also. I don't know whether Robert knew it or not, but Richard and Susan had a 4-year-old girl. Their 4-year-old daughter was in the car when he killed her stepdad. So when he shot him, the car kind of ran over to the edge of it, and it was an hour or two before anybody discovered it. So when the police showed up and said, who did this? She said, my daddy. I don't know how he got out of it the trial. He got out of it some kind of way. But that's not what I'm talking about. Now, so Robert is murdered. I told you Robert used to date Ardell. Ardell is now married to Henry. So when word get out that Robert has been murdered, well, naturally, this is her ex-boyfriend, so she's moping around the house, sad, all of this. Now, Henry does not know anything about their having dated. So after a day or two, Henry what's wrong? Well, actually, Henry was irritated. I come home and you sit around here, what's wrong with this, all this stuff going on? So finally, Henry finds out this guy used to date his wife. So he said, why didn't you tell me? He was a friend of the family. You need to go over to the family's house. So she's sitting around here with her, however you want to describe it, her husband could not nurture her because he didn't know what was going on. She probably thought he won't understand. When he found out what it was, he said, you knew him, you used to date him, he was a friend of the family. You definitely need to go there. I understand you feeling sad. Somebody that you cared about has been murdered. He couldn't do that because she had kept that information from him. And once he found out, he was very, very supportive. So you have to provide the information, communication. So what you have to take the position is, I have to get you to see what I see, so you will think like I think, feel like I feel, and respond the way I want you to respond. So you've got to stop this hide and seek in relationships. You've got to stop that. That just doesn't work. Now, if you go to the doctor, what do you have to do? You got to just keep giving the doctor information so he can zero in on what the problem is. Now, you can trick the doctor if you want to, you're going to get some wrong medicines.
That's right.
And you're going to still be sick. You got to get him, you got to just keep, and he's going to keep asking questions. Well, how long have you been having headaches? Have you noticed anything that starts the headaches? Is it in the mornings? Is it in the evening? Is it after you eat something? Is it after you go a long period of time without eating? Is it after a stressful experience? Is there a relationship between your headaches and your blood pressure? See, you got to do all of it. And so he keeps asking questions. So in relationships, take your deep breath. You got to get ready for questions to be asked. You can't get frustrated with questions because I need the question so I can see. I can't see. How many of you have had a child that was sick? One of the most heart-wrenching things is to have a baby sick and they can't tell you what's wrong and you don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. That is exactly what happens in relationships when something is wrong and I won't tell you. And I have to tell you so you understand it. See, the baby, what makes it so difficult, he can't tell you. I don't know whether his stomach's hurt because his milk has soured. He swallowed a marble. He swallowed a bug. I don't know why he's crying. And it is heart-wrenching. You see a child in pain and you don't know what to do. Okay? So communication is so crucial. So you cannot say, well, I'm not a good communicator. No excuses. You have to be. You have to take the position. I've got to present what it is on my heart so they can see it. Now that means you may have to take your emotional intensity and reduce it down toward zero. Every time I get frustrated, I have to raise my... See, raising your voice does not help communication go through clearly. But how can I be calm when he forgot to bring some sugar and I cannot even make the pineapple cake? You have to lower. You have to. You can. You can do that. Okay? Commitment, communication. So, we then talk about commitment keeps us together. Communication keeps us connected together. Everybody see that? Makes sense? All right, here's the third. There's only four. Here's the third. Compassionate. Compassionate communication keeps us comfortably connected. See, you don't just want to be connected. You can take two cats and tie their tails together and throw them over a fence. They are connected. You want them to be comfortably connected. And that requires compassionate communication. So that means you can't cuss him out. That's not compassionate. You cannot belittle their intelligence. You cannot talk about their heritage. Your mama didn't have no sense. You can't do that. You can't add up how many times they made that mistake. You can't do that. You should. It's compassionate. Compassionate. Now, when it's really intense, I recommend writing. Because if I write it, you get a chance to read the whole story without my emotional intensity. You don't get a chance to see me frown up. You don't get a chance to hear me raise my voice. None of that. Now, I am not suggesting that all communication needs to be void of emotional expression. I'm not suggesting that at all. But sometimes what you have to do at first, I need to get the information. How many times have you been talking to a person and before you finish, they're already shaking their head in disagreement? They didn't hear the whole story. But guess what? If you write it, they'll read the whole story. Right? Yeah. So, compassionate communication keeps us comfortably connected. And that's what you want to be, comfortably connected. Comfortably connected. Because when we are not comfortable, I don't care how pretty you look, you don't look pretty when we are not comfortable. I don't care how handsome the guy is, when we are not comfortable, he ain't handsome. See, we change that dynamic, okay? When we're not so compassionate, when we're not comfortable. So compassion, communication. So learn how, and practice compassionate conversation. Practice that. You really have to. And I've discovered with my grandchildren that you can get them to perform as well with compassionate instructions as you can with yelling instructions. Now, you won't learn that with your children. We don't do that. We don't learn that at that point. It's only with grandchildren. And if you don't think that's true, ask your children, do you think I'm nicer to the grand? Oh, yes, you are nicer to them than you were to us. They can't even perceive it. I remember the first one, well, not the first time. I came to my parents' house with my children. I grew up on a farm. Parents, very strict, disciplined, orderly. You didn't eat late at night. So, drink a glass of water and go to bed. I mean, you ate a while ago. Well, you don't need anything else. Go to bed. My parents started recommending cooking for my children at night. We never got a perk like that. I mean, my mama cooked. She cooked 3 meals per day. But if you ate up everything at 5, you better get you a piece of bread, drink you some water, and go to bed. My mama had never offered to cook at 8 o'clock at night. They didn't even let us eat that time of night. So I'm thinking, my goodness. And then what really blew me away, my daddy said to me one time, he said, son, don't whoop your son so much, just talk. We only got a talking to during the whipping. Y'all don't know anything about that. And afterward, matter of fact, the talking, he is talking as he is getting the switch. To sit down and have a conversation and bypass the whipping? You gotta be kidding. He said to me, and my daddy had never seen me whip my children. I've never whipped my children in front of my daddy. Never had really whipped a lot. But see, what that says is, he knew my disposition. And he knew I was like him. So what he knew about himself, he was trying to get me kind of off of that track a little bit and get me on a more compassionate track, which is a good thing. But compassionate communication. So what you want to do is practice. Listen, you want to practice. Go home and practice talking kind. Have one day a week where there no fussing. We do not fuss on Sundays. We don't fuss on Wednesday. As a matter of fact, we don't even discuss disagreeing and problematic issues. Matter of fact, you need to discuss problematic issues one day a week. Only one day a week. You say, well, how are we going to get them solved? You've been arguing about a month, you hadn't got them solved. So see, if you argue about it all the time, here's what happened. Man, I don't even want to go home because I don't want to have my wife. What's the argument? Why I didn't fix that washing machine last week? Or what? So we don't even want to go home. We don't want to talk. Because we know a fussing is going to come out. So, one day a week is when you fuss. No questions about that. Just reduce fussing one day a week.
So what do you do the other 6 days? Since nobody else gonna ask the question, I ask the question.
Yeah, I'm waiting on somebody. You hear what he said? What I'm doing the other 6 days, I'm thinking of the most creative way to get them to see my point. I'm thinking about how to get them to see my point. See, we've already argued about it and they didn't see it. So why argue about it again? So what I'm doing, I'm thinking of another way. I'm thinking of what avenue can I find to get them to see it. You may pull out an internet article and give it to them. Right here. You may get somebody to say it for you. So you got to think of a creative way. Anybody here teach school or taught school? Anybody did seminars, workshops, teach anything? Okay. If your students, okay, what'd you teach?
I was a Weight Watcher leader.
Okay.
So,
You said Weight Watcher leader? Okay. All right. I don't know much about Weight Watchers. Let me try something I know a little something about. If you're teaching math, and you find out that teaching, let's say you're teaching math, and you have said to your students, I want you to go listen to these CDs and learn this. And after a month of trying that, you discover your students don't learn it that way. Guess what? You need to do a different approach. So maybe if that student goes to the blackboard and work that problem, they might learn it better working it. So if we've said it before, if we've argued about it and they didn't get it, you didn't get it. Now sometimes people do not get it until there is an experience. Some people just don't get it until there's. I always believe that children watching Saturday wrestling matches made them aggressive. I saw that with my children, my sons. My oldest son, his uncle was so rough, and this boy was just rough. Man, I got teeth. So I saw that. So I decided they should not watch Saturday wrestling match. I didn't convince myself of that at all. See, I ain't got nothing to do with that. They just the way they are. On a Monday night, I went to do a home Bible study. We lived in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I got back to the house, and everybody in the house was gone. And all the lights in the house was on. The Bible study was like 8 o'clock. I got back about 9:15 at night. Where's everybody in? This is in the day before cell phone and that stuff. So the house phone rings. It was my sister-in-law in Arkansas calling me and said, how's Marcus? How's Tony? I said, what do you mean, how's Tony? Okay, here's what happened. My oldest son had done the pile driver like he'd seen on the wrestling match and knocked the second boy out. And they were going to the hospital. So she called her sister before she left. And when she called, oh my goodness. And so she knew the name of the hospital. So I zipped over there. Guess what happened next Saturday? She had no trouble getting him out from the rest after that.
That's right.
So I couldn't convince her.
Experience.
I never could convince her. She had to have an experience. Now sometimes experiences are very costly.
That's right.
And sometimes that's the only, there's some people who will not learn otherwise. Now I didn't say that to suggest you that Priscilla is an obstinate person, but that just, and that's probably some things that she hadn't got me to see until that was an experience. I remember one time I was taking the air conditioner out the window. You know, it was winter time, so it was a winter unit. So she said, who are you going to get to help you take that out? I said, I don't own nothing, I can't handle it. I pulled that air conditioning unit into the house and set it up. I did not know it came out of the house. And that thing slid down in that housing on my finger, and I could not get my finger out. And my finger was hurting me so bad. This is the truth. I believe if I had a bad heart, I would have died that day because I could not get my finger out of there. I was pulling, and it only had a little ledge about that far, and that's all I had my finger trying to get, and I could not. So I finally said, go next door and get a neighbor to come over and get this out. And I finally pulled it out, and it pulled that fingernail off.
Wow.
It was about 9 months before it went. I mean, I hurt so bad. And my heart was, I literally had to go sit down for 10 or 15 minutes so my heart rate would calm down. But there's some things I didn't learn without the experience. There are some things I own I can't handle. All right, now let's get to the fourth one. Now, this is the hardest one to explain. but you'll get it.